The Settle to Carlisle line opened in 1876. Along the 72 miles of track are 15 tunnels and 24 viaducts. Today, people have travelled far and wide to ride on this historic railway.
It's the most beautiful scenic route. I mean, there's countryside here none of us have ever seen, and it is truly spectacular.
I love riding this line. It's my favourite railway line.
Steam locomotives, they excite all the senses. They're beautiful to look at, beautiful to listen to, and even the smell is just wonderful.
And this is the moment all the passengers and sightseers have been waiting for, crossing the famous Ribble Head Viaduct. At a quarter of a mile long with 24 arches, some up to 165 feet high, it's astonishing to think that this viaduct was built using mostly manual labour. Before joining the train, I took a closer look at this magnificent example of Victorian engineering with railway historian Brian Gray.
Hello Brian, lovely to meet you.
Brian, this is spectacular. How was it built?
It was built by navvies. Navvies were the navigators of the canal age. The navigator was short of navvy. So the railway navvies built this viaduct and this railway. They came from all over England and Scotland and Ireland, and they moved from project to project. Probably 2,000 people were involved in total in building this railway line. So they had to establish really a small town here in which they lived for 6 years.
But where we're standing, they built a town.
It was actually a set of 9 individual communities.
Yeah.
And they gave them names. So we had Jericho and Jerusalem because they had rudimentary Bible knowledge. Up on the hill behind us in a slightly posher area was Belgravia. On average there were 7 people living in a hut. And there were a lot of children, so about 100 children under 10 lived on this site. When you're over 10 you started working, of course.
So what did they do for schools?
The railway companies built schools, they built shops, they built a church and a rudimentary hospital.
It's interesting you say they built a church. I mean, who looked after their spiritual well-being?
Of course, when I say a church, it wasn't a church with a spire, it was a wooden hut.
Wooden hut.
Used as a church. Well, this was the Victorian age when people, I think the great managers, entrepreneurs of the day, did care actually about the spiritual well-being of the workers. And of course, they thought that people who were looked after would work harder as well. The railway company paid for 2 ministers who would talk to them, preaching to them and being there for them, particularly sitting with their, on their sick beds, for example, when they were ill, and just giving them encouragement when they were perhaps depressed at living in such a wild place.
It was a tough life for the workers and their families, and an outbreak of smallpox in 1870 made things worse, the disease claiming many victims. In this local church in Chapel Le Dale, the number of funerals went up from 2 a year to 60.
David, this is a plaque that the railway company erected to commemorate all the navvies and their families who lost their lives during the construction of the railway.
Around 200 of them, including children, are buried in the churchyard.
They couldn't afford proper graves and memorials, so this is one large mass grave. It is really difficult to believe that these people gave up their lives for a railway that is just a short distance from where we stand today. But at least the viaduct still stands as a memorial to all they gave.